The phone rang on a quiet Phoenix evening. Simone, my daughter-in-law, used my first name for the very first time. "Arthur," she said, her voice soft and warm. "The baby's due any day now. We'd love for you to be there when he arrives. You're going to be such an amazing grandfather." I'm Arthur Vance, 58 years old, a retired financial fraud investigator. For 3 decades, I'd interviewed con artists, identity thieves, and corporate embezzlers. I knew what a performance sounded like. I should have known. For 5 years, Simone had called me Mr. Vance. Cold, formal, the kind of distance that said I wasn't really family, just an obligation she tolerated. My son, Marcus, 32, had married her in a quick ceremony I wasn't invited to, and every interaction since had felt like I was intruding on their perfectly curated life. Now suddenly she was calling me Arthur. "I'd love to be there," I said, and I meant it. "When should I drive up?" "Tonight if you can," she said, and there was something in her voice, a sweetness that felt rehearsed, like she was reading from a script. "I just have this feeling he's coming soon. I want you here, Arthur. Marcus does too." In the background, I heard a faint, muffled male voice, too quiet to make out words. "I'll leave in an hour," I said. "Perfect." Her voice brightened. "Drive safely. We can't wait to see you." She hung up before I could ask if they needed anything. Before I could say I loved them. Before I could do anything but sit in my living room holding the phone and wondering when my daughter-in-law, 38 years old and usually colder than a February audit, had become so warm. I should have listened to that small voice in the back of my investigator's mind. The one that said, "People don't change their patterns without a reason." The one that had kept me alive through 3 decades of investigations and stakeouts. But I was going to be a grandfather, and that excitement drowned out everything else. I packed carefully. Baby clothes I'd been buying in secret for months, stored in the hall closet where my wife, Clara, couldn't see them and get her hopes up. A wooden rattle my own father had given me. My best shirt, the one I wore to weddings and funerals, because meeting your grandson for the first time felt sacred. I left Phoenix at 8 that night, the desert sky still holding the last amber glow of sunset. 12 hours to San Diego. I'd done longer drives on less sleep when I was chasing a case. The interstate stretched ahead, empty and dark. Arizona gave way to California, the desert flattening into something lonelier. I stopped once for gas, twice more for coffee that tasted like burnt rubber, but kept my eyes open. Around midnight, I called Marcus's number to check in. Simone answered. "Arthur," she said, and again that warmth, that unnatural sweetness. "How far out are you?" "Just hit the California border," I said. "Everything okay? Why are you answering Marcus's phone?" "He's asleep," she said quickly, resting up before the big day. "You know how he is." I didn't, actually. My son had stopped telling me how he was 5 years ago. "Tell him I'll be there by morning," I said. "I will," she promised. "Drive safely, Arthur. It'll all be worth it." The question flickered through my mind somewhere past the state border. When did affection become a weapon I could no longer recognize? But I pushed it aside. I was tired, paranoid. 30 years of seeing the worst in people had made me suspicious of kindness, and that wasn't fair to Simone. Maybe she'd changed. Maybe pregnancy had softened her. Maybe I was finally being led into the family I'd been locked out of. The mountains rose around me as the winter storm rolled in. I-8 climbed through freezing darkness, my headlights cutting weak tunnels through the blinding white sheets of ice. My GPS flickered once, twice, then stabilized. I called again at 4 in the morning, somewhere past Palm Springs. Simone answered again. "Almost there?" she asked, and this time I heard it. The slight strain in her voice, like she was performing a part and getting tired of the lines. "A few more hours," I said. "Is Marcus still asleep?" "Out cold," she said. "You must be exhausted. We'll have coffee ready." "Thanks," I said, and I wanted to ask why she kept answering his phone, why her voice sounded like she was reading cue cards, why every word felt just slightly wrong. But I didn't, because I was going to meet my grandson and nothing else mattered. The GPS glitched again near the San Diego metro area, the screen freezing for a full 30 seconds before snapping back to life. The route recalculated. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles white in the dashboard glow. My hands ached. My back screamed. I'd been driving for 11 hours with only gas station coffee and adrenaline keeping me conscious, but I was close now. So close. 1 hour. Just one more hour until I'd hold my grandson. Then I saw it, the green highway sign glowing in my headlights. San Diego city limit 47 miles. My heart beat faster with every passing mile marker. 45 miles. 40. 37. The city lights appeared on the horizon, a golden sprawl against the pre-dawn sky. I had no idea that in exactly 3 hours and 12 minutes, my son would block me at a hospital door and speak words that would cost them everything. I had no idea the GPS glitches were a signal jammer tracking my location. I had no idea that the situation with the original grandson had already changed completely weeks prior. All I knew was that I was almost there, almost home. Marcus's face was the first thing I saw when I reached the maternity ward. Not relief, not joy, but pure panic. I'd walked through San Diego General's fluorescent hallways at 2 in the morning, following signs to the 3rd floor, room 314. 12 hours of driving had left my back screaming and my eyes burning, but adrenaline carried me forward. I was going to meet my grandson. Nothing else mattered. Then I saw Marcus standing outside the delivery room door, and everything stopped. His face was pale. His eyes darted past me into the room behind him, then back. Not the exhausted joy of a new father. Not the overwhelmed gratitude of a son whose dad had driven through the night to be there. Panic. Cold, calculated panic. "Dad," he said, and his voice cracked. "What are you doing here?" "Simone called," I said, confusion washing over me. "She said the baby was coming. She wanted me here." His eyes narrowed. "She called you? When?" "Last night. She said you wanted me here." My mind raced. The forced sweetness in Simone's voice. The muffled male voice in the background. The GPS glitches. It all clicked into place. A cold, hard knot in my stomach. "Where's Simone?" "She's inside," he said, still blocking the door. "Look, Dad, this isn't a good time. We're having some complications." "Complications?" I pushed past him, my heart pounding. The room was empty. No baby, no Simone, just a nurse, her face etched with concern, cleaning up. "Mr. Vance?" she asked, surprised. "The delivery was 2 hours ago. Mrs. Vance had a difficult labor, but the baby is healthy. They were just transferred to recovery, room 402. Marcus grabbed my arm, his grip tight. "Dad, wait! There's something I need to tell you." "What is it, Marcus?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. "What's going on?" He hesitated, then blurted out, "Simone, she doesn't want you here. She says you're a bad influence. She wants you to leave." The words hit me like a physical blow. My own son, echoing the coldness of his wife. My mind flashed back to the forged signature, the hospital bill. The pieces were starting to connect, forming a picture far more sinister than I could have imagined. This wasn't about a difficult labor, this was a setup. I pulled away from him, my detective instincts kicking in. "Marcus, I'm not leaving until I see my grandson, and I'm going to find out exactly what's going on here." I walked away, leaving him standing there, pale and defeated. Room 402. I found Simone in the recovery room, holding a tiny bundle. She looked up, her eyes wide with surprise, then hardened into a glare. "Arthur," she said, her voice devoid of the earlier warmth. "What are you doing here?" "I told Marcus to send you away." "I'm here to see my grandson," I said, my gaze fixed on the baby. He was tiny, perfect, swaddled in a blue blanket. My heart ached with a love so profound it almost overshadowed the anger simmering beneath. "What's his name?" "Finn," she said reluctantly. "Finn Vance." I reached out, but she pulled him closer. "You can't touch him. You're not welcome here." "Simone," I said, my voice low and steady, "I know about the hospital bill. I know about the forged signature. And I know you used my thumbprint from that ceramic mug you gave me." Her face went white. The mug. The one she'd asked me to press my thumb into, claiming it was for a sentimental craft project. It had been a biometric capture device. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. "You're crazy," she whispered, her eyes darting around the room. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't you?" I pulled out my phone and showed her a photo of the hospital bill, clearly displaying my forged electronic signature. This was signed at midnight 4 days ago. I was stranded in a remote mountain area with no signal. You signed it, Simone. And I have proof. Her eyes narrowed. You can't prove anything. It's your word against mine. Actually, it's not, I said, my voice unwavering. I'm a retired financial fraud investigator. I've been building a case against you for weeks, and I have everything. She stared at me, her face a mask of fear. Where's Marcus? I asked. He's outside, she stammered. Good, I said, because he's going to have some explaining to do. I turned and walked out of the room, leaving her with her newborn and a future that was about to crumble. I found Marcus pacing in the hallway. Dad, please, he began. Let's just talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, Marcus, I said, my voice devoid of emotion. You and Simone conspired to defraud the hospital and to steal from me. I have evidence, and I'm going to use it. His face crumpled. Dad, no. Please, don't do this. Simone, she pressured me. She said we needed the money for Finn's future. Finn's future? I scoffed. You were willing to risk everything, including your son's future, for a quick buck? You used me, Marcus, your own father. The pain in my voice was raw, unvarnished. I'm sorry, Dad, he whispered, tears streaming down his face. I messed up. Please, just give me a chance to fix this. It's too late for that, I said. The police are already on their way. He stared at me, his eyes wide with disbelief. You called the police? I did, I confirmed. And I'm going to make sure you both pay for what you've done. The next few weeks were a blur of legal proceedings, interrogations, and emotional turmoil. Simone and Marcus were arrested for fraud and identity theft. The evidence was overwhelming. The biometric fingerprint from the ceramic mug, the forged hospital bill, the surveillance footage from hidden cameras I'd installed in my home after my initial suspicions were aroused. It turned out Simone had been tracking my movements, using a signal jammer disguised as a GPS device to ensure I was out of range when she committed the fraud. She'd also planted a baby bracelet in my home, a seemingly innocent gift, but in reality, a sophisticated listening device designed to monitor my conversations. She thought she was watching me, but I was watching her, every step of the way. The bracelet, it turned out, was a critical piece of evidence. Its unusual weight and complex construction, far beyond what was necessary for a simple infant's accessory, raised immediate red flags for the FBI forensics team. They discovered a miniature microphone and a tiny transmitter, capable of relaying audio to a remote receiver. Simone had been gathering intelligence, believing she was one step ahead. She had no idea I had been playing a much longer game. Marcus received a lighter sentence due to his cooperation, but Simone, the mastermind of the scheme, faced a much harsher penalty. The betrayal cut deep, a wound that might never fully heal. But amidst the darkness, there was a glimmer of light. Finn, my grandson. He was placed in my custody, a tiny, innocent life caught in the crossfire of his parents' greed. 2 years have passed since that fateful night. Finn is a happy, thriving toddler, full of boundless energy and an infectious laugh. He calls me Grandpa, a word that fills my heart with a warmth I never thought I'd feel again. Clara, my wife, has embraced her role as grandmother with open arms, her love a balm for the scars left by the past. We tell Finn stories about dinosaurs and brave knights, about a grandfather dinosaur who finds a baby dinosaur and protects him with all his might. He loves that one the most. I still think about Marcus sometimes, not with the grinding obsession that occupied the first year, not with grief or rage, or the complicated shame of a father who'd built the case that sent his own son to prison. Just think about him the way you think about weather, acknowledging what it was, noting that it had changed, accepting that you had no control over when it changed further. He will be released in 2035. Finn will be 15. What happened after that was not my case to manage. I'd learned slowly, and at considerable cost, that some files close, that the job of protecting the living is different from the job of prosecuting the past, and that I could only do one of them now. I had chosen correctly. The sliding door opened. Clara leaned out. He's asking for you, she said. Won't settle without the dinosaur story. Which one? The one where the grandfather dinosaur finds the baby dinosaur. Of course, he'd named that one himself months ago and requested it with the frequency of a child who understands instinctively that certain stories need to be told more than once before they become real. I set my coffee down on the railing and went inside. The story was 3 minutes long. He was asleep before the ending. I stayed another 20 anyway, sitting in the chair by the window while afternoon light crossed the floor, listening to him breathe in the room that used to hold nothing, and now held everything. 2 years is long enough to stop measuring time in damage. I had started measuring it in something else entirely. And to you listening to my story, remember this. The people closest to you can hurt you the deepest, but they can also be your reason to keep going. Those late nights, those missed dinners, those cases I chose over Marcus's childhood, they created the distance Simone exploited. Don't make my mistake. Be there. This family story taught me that love and trust aren't the same thing. I love Finn with everything I have, but I verify everything now. Every bill, every signature, every voice on the phone. That's not cynicism. That's survival. And here's what I believe. God put me through this difficult journey so I could save that innocent baby and get a second chance at being the grandpa I should have been from the start. These grandpa stories we tell ourselves about unconditional trust, sometimes they're dangerous. Verify, protect, be present. That's the real lesson from this family story. This story is a work of fiction. Any resemblance to real people, events, or places is purely coincidental.